So before we get into the start and sit videos for the quarterback position, we have had some great performances from players that most people probably never even considered. Justin Fields, I have to give you credit. You have done a phenomenal job. 45 points in fantasy. You had 178 rushing yards. Now, could that be a repeat this week? We'll see what I say about that in the start and sit video. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, welcome to the start and sit video. This is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we are here for your Week 10 start and sit video for the quarterback position. Again, there are obviously some really good games this week. There are some games that are going to be early Sunday morning, so make sure you guys are prepared for that. We always have our Thursday game as well. There are 4 teams on a bye. We've got the Ravens, the Jets, the Bengals, and the Patriots, so obviously no Burrow, no Lamar Jackson. I don't think anybody's missing Zach Wilson or Mac Jones unless you're maybe in a super flex deep league. But those are your 4 teams that are on a bye. Okay, these are your obvious starts. These are guys you should be starting this week, whether it be a matchup or whether it be they just are an absolute start. And obviously you see Tua and Fields in here, guys that I probably never mentioned in the obvious position really ever. Now, Fields, you better not disappoint me, being that I put you in the obvious start, but you've got a great matchup, so I like it this week. But these are the 5 that you should absolutely start this week. Josh Allen's not in here only because of his injury. It's something I'm keeping an eye on. There is something that is lingering in his elbow. He's got an injury there. It could limit him. We'll see. If obviously he plays, you're going to play Josh Allen, but just be aware of that injury. It might affect him a little bit, which could affect Diggs, and we'll talk about that when we do the wide receiver start and sit video. Now, my first quarterback I recommend as a good start is going to be Russell Wilson versus the Titans. This is the first time I really feel confident as far as Russell Wilson going into a starting lineup this week. Titans allowed 20.5 points to the quarterback and just under 300 passing yards. They're also allowing 2 passing touchdowns per game. Russell's not been the Russ of old. Let's be honest. We all understand that. We've all seen that. But he has the upside coming from a bye week, possibly putting a better game plan. Maybe they're starting to realize what they can do with him and using him properly, because Nathaniel Hackett, you're just ruining his career right now. And he has 2 really good receivers on the outside. You've got Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. Those are 2 really good receivers that Russell Wilson should be loving. And just, I mean, the fact is, you have 2 good receivers that are very similar in some of the ball skill that you had with Metcalf and Lockett. I think Metcalf obviously is better than those 2, but still, you've got 2 really good receivers. But Titans just allowed 38 points to Mahomes. Now, I understand it's Mahomes. I get that. But they also allowed 25 points to Matt Ryan, 27 points to Carson Wentz this season as well. This is a really good matchup. I really like this one. I think he can easily be a top 8 quarterback, maybe a top 5. We'll see how that goes. But I do like Russell Wilson as a good start. Another quarterback I like as a good start this week is Trevor Lawrence versus the Chiefs. Chiefs had a great game defensively against the Titans, but that was with a rookie in Malik Willis, who unfortunately, while he's played, has not thrown really more than like 5 yards down the field. He's not thrown more than 5 passes in the game. Like, I feel more confident as a quarterback than what Malik Willis is. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think the Tennessee Titans are so worried about putting him out there and actually seeing what he can do. They're just limiting him completely. With that said, the Chiefs do give up an average of 19.9 points to the quarterback and allowing 2 passing touchdowns per game as well. Lawrence has the upside to perform, obviously, into that 20-point range, especially with, Etienne becoming the star that he is. He's got a good receiver in Christian Kirk out there as well. He's got Marvin Jones. He's got some good weapons for him. So I do like Trevor Lawrence a lot. This will be definitely a shootout, which I think is going to help him because they're going to have to play catch up with Kansas City. And I think that only helps. Anytime you're playing behind, it's good to have the opposite quarterback if you're trying to play catch up. Now, the last quarterback I have as a good start is going to be Andy Dalton versus the Steelers. Steelers allowed 21.2 points to the quarterback, over 280 passing yards. They also allow 2 touchdowns per game to the quarterback as well. Dalton is typically a safe bet most weeks, getting anywhere from 14 to 16 points. Now, unfortunately, he only put up 11 points in the Monday night game against the Ravens. But if you watch that game, he had no time. The offensive line struggled. They weren't afraid of Kamara at all. The Ravens did a really phenomenal job blitzing, getting to the quarterback. Justin Houston looked amazing. They just kept getting in Andy Dalton's face, and it just ruined that whole game for him. He was able to get one touchdown. He played smart. Again, he's a very safe bet. Very rarely is he turning it over. He did have one interception, which was off the defensive lineman. And again, Justin Houston had a really good game. He had caught that interception. But this matchup for him against the Steelers is a less daunting of a team to be worried about. But again, just be a little conscious of this. I still like Andy Dalton, though. I like the matchup. Hopefully the Steelers keep it a game so that way it's not just a Kamara game and that Andy Dalton has to throw the ball. Now, my first quarterback, I'm going to have it sit Aaron Rodgers versus the Cowboys. Just stop. Aaron Rodgers, this is not the MVP of years past. His play, his demeanor, his receiver play, everything has drastically just affected his performance this season. Losing Dobbs is not going to help. He's probably going to be out 2 to 3 weeks due to a high ankle sprain. Watson now has his second concussion this season, which is now going to be out again. So Lazard's really the guy. And it leaves Rodgers with very little at the receiving core. And so, yeah, there's excuses for him. But you could just tell as well, he just doesn't want to be there. I think realistically, I'm sure all of you Green Bay Packer fans probably wish he didn't resign, but you have him, okay? Also, one thing I wanted to mention was Aaron Jones is hurt. Now, he should play. That's the expectation, and I know they do have A.J. Dillon. But again, think about all the weapons that Aaron Rodgers is losing, and you're going against a Dallas Cowboys defense that has done a really good job. Cowboys have only allowed 13.7 points to the quarterback, just at 200 passing yards. The pass rush, phenomenal with Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Armstrong, Fowler. I mean, just they have the depth and to really kind of keep Aaron Rodgers busy. Now, I will say this, as a lifelong Cowboy fan, and especially as of late in the past, 5 to 10 years, one thing I will say is that Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have, for whatever reason, always had the Cowboys number. So, could he have a secret, sneaky game against them? It's always possible. It's any given Sunday. We know how that works. But again, as fantasy goes, as somebody who looks at the numbers and watches the matchups and does all, I don't feel confident playing him this week. Another quarterback I'm not gonna start this week would be Daniel Jones versus the Texans. Texans actually do a good job against stopping the quarterback. Only quarterbacks to get 18 points or more against them has been Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. Otherwise, they hold quarterbacks typically to 12 points. Daniel Jones is not Hurts or Herbert, so it's pretty simple. Now, his rushing ability does, I would say, give him some edge and make him a little bit more dangerous, but I don't expect that much out of him. I think this is going to be a game where you're probably going to see more Saquon Barkley being utilized because there's a good chance they could kind of be up. Now, Houston is obviously fighting for their lives just to be a good competitive team. We don't expect much out of them, so it's not like the Giants are going to be playing behind a lot, and if so, maybe a touchdown. So I'm not starting Daniel Jones this week. Another quarterback I may be sitting this week, and again, it depends on what your roster looks like, is Kirk Cousins versus the Bills. Now, most likely you're going to play Cousins. You probably have him in your team. You probably don't have any great depth. Maybe there's nobody on the waivers. Hopefully you grab Fields. I mentioned that in our waiver wire video. But, and I get it. He averages 17 points in fantasy. This is just a tough matchup against the Bills. Bills hold quarterbacks to 12.7 points and only 214 passing yards. On top of that, the only time the Bills have allowed more than 16 points to a quarterback was Mahomes, who had 21 points. There's a difference between Mahomes and Kirk Cousins. We all understand that. We all can agree upon that. The Bills also held Lamar Jackson to 15, Aaron Rodgers to 16, Tua to 11, and I understand that game was a little different. But you see some quarterbacks who have done pretty well in fantasy this season held to 16 points or less. And I understand Kirk Cousins has a pretty powerful offense. And they're probably going to play behind. We'll see how this game plays out. But if I have other options, deeper options, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Fields, whatever, I would probably put them in over Kirk Cousins. Now, as far as my sleepers go, the first quarterback I have is Matthew Stafford versus the Cardinals. First game of the season, Stafford only put up 10 points. I get it. Stafford doesn't look great. This offense doesn't look great. The logical thing is obviously to bench him again. But with that said, the Cardinals do allow 20.8 points to quarterbacks, which is the 5th worst in the NFL. They also allow 260 passing yards. And I don't see a repeat necessarily for Stafford to just lay a dud in this one. I can see him getting 16 to 18 points, having a pretty efficient game, having a game where he's not going to have just 10 points. Sometimes when you rematch it, especially against a rivalry team, you learn from what your mistakes were, especially early in the season, and you improve upon that. So the running game does worry me to kind of put the pressure on Stafford, but I still like him as a nice little sleeper. Another guy is Marcus Mariota versus the Panthers. Now, you may not say sleeper is the right thing to say for Marcus Mariota, especially since the last time he played Carolina Panthers, he put up 24 points earlier this season. But I put him here because Mariota isn't being a starter for everyone every single week. You probably have him on your bench, especially obviously deep leagues. You probably never started him, maybe once in a while. But Panthers allow 16.8 points to the quarterback and 240 passing yards. Mariota did struggle this weekend, putting up only 7 points. But this is a nice little turnaround for him against the Carolina Panthers. I'm not saying he's going to replicate his 24 points, but he's going to get you, 18 to 20. For sure. I think this is a really good matchup for him. And I like this one. So those are my start, sits, and sleepers for the quarterback week 10. Look, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It is greatly appreciated. If you guys have not already, make sure you check out our waiver wire video. That way we can help you guys get the players you guys need for your week 10. We are just 5 games away from realistically going to the playoffs. So this is it. This is where you need it. If you guys have trade questions, waiver wire questions, start and sit questions, hit us up in the comments down below. That's where we're going to be here to help you guys get those questions answered. We'll give you some insight of why we picked that particular player. Again, just to be as helpful as we possibly can. If you guys do have questions, again, hit us up in the comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button, and I'll check you guys out next time.